Here's the beautiful crochet coaster we'll be making today. Isn't it lovely? With its simple yet elegant design, it's perfect for adding a personal touch to your home or even as a thoughtful handmade gift. For this project, I'm using a soft beige cotton yarn for a classic look, complemented by a deep maroon for a touch of contrast. These colors work beautifully together, but feel free to choose shades that match your style. Along with that, we'll need a 2mm crochet hook, a tapestry needle, and a small pair of scissors. We'll begin by making a slip knot. If you're new to this, don't worry, it's a basic step and a great way to start. Take your maroon yarn, loop it around, and pull through. This little knot is the foundation of our work. For the first round, chain 4 to get us started. This forms the base of our coaster. Wrap the yarn around your fingers, form the loop, and secure it on your hook. Now we'll create a magic ring. This technique is wonderful for projects like this. Next, yarn over and make a double crochet into the magic ring. This step is what begins to shape our circle. After that, chain 1 and repeat the pattern of double crochet followed by a chain 1 all the way around. We'll need a total of 12 double crochets in the ring, each separated by a chain. Take your time here. It's all about building the structure for the coaster. As the circle grows, you'll see the design start to take shape. Once all 12 double crochets are in place, gently pull the magic ring closed. This part is always satisfying as it tightens up beautifully. Slip stitch into the third chain to close the round. Then chain 1 and snip the yarn with your scissors. And just like that, round 1 is complete. Now we're switching to the beige yarn to add a beautiful contrast to our design. Let's begin by joining the yarn and chaining 3. This chain will count as our first double crochet stitch. To continue, make a double crochet stitch into the same chain space. You'll notice the circle already starting to expand. It's such a satisfying moment in the process. The pattern for this round is simple yet effective. Chain 1, then work 2 double crochet stitches into each chain space from the previous round. This creates a lovely texture and structure. Take your time and enjoy the rhythm of the stitches as you work your way around the circle. Once we've completed all the chain spaces, we'll finish the round by slip stitching into the third chain from the start. This step ties everything together neatly. There's our second round complete, and it's looking great. Let's keep the momentum going as we move to round 3. To start the third round, we chain 3, just like before. This acts as our first double crochet stitch. Now we'll make 2 double crochet stitches into the next stitch. Notice how the pattern is gently growing, adding more dimension with each round. This round introduces a slightly different pattern. Chain 1, then work 1 double crochet into the next stitch. In the following stitch, make 2 double crochets. The sequence for this round is 3 double crochets separated by 1 chain. It's a lovely way to give the coaster an intricate yet balanced look. Continue this pattern all the way around the circle. When you reach the end, slip stitch into the third chain, just as we did before. This secures the round and prepares us to transition smoothly into the fourth round. With each step, you can see the coaster coming to life, truly rewarding work. Let's begin the fourth round by chaining 3. This chain, as before, will serve as our first double crochet. Moving on, we'll double crochet into the next stitch, which helps maintain that smooth flow of the pattern. Now, we'll increase into the next stitch by making 2 double crochets in the same spot. This is where the circle starts to open up more, creating that lovely expansion we're aiming for. The pattern for this round is straightforward yet keeps things interesting. Remember, crocheting is as much about enjoying the process as it is about the final piece. And if your hands need a little break, don't hesitate to pause. It's all part of the experience. After increasing, chain 1. Then, double crochet into the next 2 stitches. On the third stitch, we'll increase again with 2 double crochets. Repeating this sequence all around the circle gives us a balanced, even shape. Don't rush this step. It's all about consistency to ensure the coaster looks polished. One of the reasons I love this pattern is how forgiving it is. If you ever feel unsure about your stitch count, just take a moment to double check. As we finish this round, take a look at how the coaster is shaping up. Isn't it wonderful to see the design emerge with each stitch? To close this round, we'll slip stitch into the third chain from the start. And look at that, round 4 is complete. It's really coming together beautifully, don't you think? Now, onto round 5. To begin the 5th round, we'll chain 3, setting the foundation for this next layer. This chain again counts as the first double crochet. Then, we'll double crochet into the next 3 stitches. This part feels rhythmic, doesn't it? Watching the coaster grow is so satisfying. When we get to the 4th stitch, it's time to increase by working 2 double crochets into the same stitch. This step ensures the circle continues to expand evenly. After the increase, chain 1, then repeat the pattern. Double crochet into the next 3 stitches, increase on the 4th stitch, and chain 1 again. With each round, the design becomes more intricate and refined. This is a great point to reflect on why we crochet. It's not just about making something functional, it's about creating something personal and meaningful. Whether you're making this coaster for yourself or as a gift, every stitch carries a little bit of care and intention. It's such a simple yet powerful way to express creativity. Once you've made it all the way around, slip stitch into the 3rd chain to close the round. Then, as before, we'll chain 3 to get ready for the next round. Take a moment to admire your work. It's looking more beautiful with every stitch. All right, let's start round 6 with a simple but essential step, making a double crochet into each stitch all around. This round is all about creating a solid base for the more decorative rounds coming up. It's a bit repetitive, but there's something so meditative about the process. You can get into a nice rhythm here, letting your hands work while your mind relaxes. Or, if you're like me, you might start planning what colors to use for your next project. Crochet inspiration is endless. One thing I love about crochet is how versatile it is. This coaster we're making could easily be adapted into a larger project like a doily or even the base for a bag. And don't you just love how each round adds a new layer of personality to the piece? It's like watching a blank canvas transform into art, one stitch at a time. It's always amazing how the same basic stitches can create so many different patterns. Just changing the order or adding a chain can completely transform the look of your project. You know, I've always thought of crochet as a kind of meditation. The rhythm of pulling loops and making stitches, it's like a little escape from the chaos of the day. As we finish this round, Slip stitch into the third chain to close it off. There's something so satisfying about completing a round. It feels like checking off a to-do list. And now, onto round 7, which adds an entirely new look to our coaster. We'll begin round 7 by chaining 7. This sets the stage for a new and airy design. Now, slip 2 stitches and make a double crochet into the 4th stitch. Can you see how it's starting to form those delicate, loose squares? They look so light and elegant, don't they? Perfect for giving the coaster a bit of a lacy vibe. The pattern is simple yet stunning. Chain 4, skip 2 stitches, and make a double crochet into the next stitch. These little squares create such a unique look. If you've ever crocheted lace before, you know how magical it is to see something so intricate take shape from just a few simple stitches. Once you've worked this pattern all the way around, slip stitch into the 3rd chain to close the round. Then chain 1 and cut the yarn with scissors. Doesn't it look amazing already? The loose squares give it such a distinctive character, elegant and airy, like a decorative piece you'd find in a vintage boutique. Now we're switching back to the maroon yarn for the final round. Start by tying both color yarns securely at the back of the coaster. This keeps everything nice and neat. Let's begin the step by starting with a chain 3. This is the foundation for this part of the design, and it's going to act as the first stitch. From here, we're going to make 5 double crochets, so go ahead and yarn over. Insert your hook, pull through, and finish that double crochet. You'll notice as we build these up, the texture is really starting to pop out. It's such a satisfying moment to see it taking shape. It's almost like watching a puzzle piece fall perfectly into place. Keep going with those double crochets. This is number 3. Make sure to keep your tension even as you work because you want all your stitches to look uniform. The flow of this design really depends on consistent tension, so take your time. There's no rush here. For down, 1 more to go. And there we have it, 5 beautiful double crochets, forming that solid base for the rest of the design. Now remember, the chain 3 we started with also counts as a stitch. So in total, we have 6 double crochet stitches in the segment. Alright, now let's move on to the next part, where we'll be making 5 double crochets on the front post of the previous double crochet stitch. If you're new to front post stitches, don't worry, it's actually quite simple once you get the hang of it. Instead of inserting your hook into the top of the stitch like usual, you're going to insert it around the post of the stitch. This creates a raised effect, which adds that extra layer of texture. Watch as I do this, see how the stitches sort of stand out from the rest of the design? It's such a neat trick, and it really makes this pattern special. Take a moment to admire how these front post stitches are forming. They almost look like a decorative braid or ridge. This is one of those techniques that can elevate a basic pattern. Next, we're going to slip stitch into the next double crochet stitch. Slip stitches are so handy. They let us move around the piece without adding bulk to the design. And now we're going to chain 4. This part is important because it creates space for the next segment. After chaining 4, we're going to turn our work around. This turning motion is crucial because it helps us shift to the next part of our pattern smoothly. Once you've turned your work, slip stitch into the next double crochet stitch. Now, after completing the slip stitch, we chain 2. After chaining 2, we turn back again, and now we're all set to continue building this beautiful crochet piece. Now make 6 double crochets into the chain space. This step builds a beautiful scalloped edge that adds depth and charm to the coaster. As you're working through this final round, take a moment to appreciate how far you've come. From a simple magic ring to this intricate design, it's amazing what a bit of yarn and patience can create. And don't worry if your stitches aren't perfect. Handmade pieces have their own unique character, and that's what makes them so special. I don't know about you, but I've definitely spent more time untangling yarn than actually crocheting. It's a rite of passage, isn't it? If you're new to crochet, don't stress about making mistakes. Every crocheter has had to frog a project at some point. Frogging just means ripping out your stitches because you have to rip it. It's all part of the learning process. To complete the pattern, make 5 double crochets on the front post of the next double crochet stitch, just like before. Keep repeating this pattern until you reach the end of the round. This border really ties everything together, making the coaster look finished and polished. It almost resembles a flower or a fancy sunburst, don't you think? A beautiful final touch to a delightful project. I have to say, it's already starting to look so elegant. As I'm working these stitches, you can really see how the maroon yarn is adding that perfect touch of richness to the design. The contrast between the beige from earlier rounds and this deep maroon is just so striking. It's giving the coaster a sophisticated, almost vintage feel. Don't you think this would make such a lovely gift? Now, as I add these double crochets to the front post of the previous stitch, notice how they create this raised, textured effect. It almost looks like little ripples or waves forming around the edges. This technique is one of my favorites because it adds so much depth to a project without being overly complicated. Just make sure to keep your tension even here. It's especially important in this round to maintain that uniformity since the raised stitches are the main feature. If your tension is too loose, the edges might look floppy, and if it's too tight, the coaster could start curling inward. I can't help but admire how this pattern mimics nature. The alternating raised and flat sections remind me of ocean waves gently lapping against the shore. Isn't it amazing how a simple crochet design can evoke such imagery? You might even say it resembles flower petals blooming outward. It's like a little piece of art forming right under your hook. Let's talk about these chain spaces for a second. If you're new to working into chain spaces, don't overthink it. You're not inserting the hook into a stitch, but into the gap itself, and that can feel a little different at first. The key is to keep your loops even as you pull them through so that the chain spaces stay neat and open. This openness is what gives the pattern its light, airy quality. And honestly, it's so satisfying when those chain spaces line up perfectly. It's like everything just clicks into place. As I continue working around, take a look at how the raised stitches really frame the pattern. This texture isn't just decorative, it also gives the coaster a little extra grip, which is perfect for holding a mug in place. Functionality meets beauty, right? And don't worry if you notice a slight wave or curve as you're crocheting. Once we finish and hide the yarn tails, a little gentle shaping will fix that right up. And look at this, it's absolutely stunning. The maroon edge really ties everything together, and the texture makes it feel so luxurious. Can you see how each section almost resembles scalloped lace? Now, to finish everything off, use a tapestry needle to hide the yarn tails by weaving them through the back of the coaster. This step ensures everything looks neat and tidy from every angle. This is one of those designs that looks so intricate, but it's really just a combination of simple stitches. Hide those yarn ends and marvel at this gorgeous creation. Finally, snip off any excess yarn. Share your creations in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more crochet fun. And there you have it, the completed crochet coaster. Isn't it elegant? Perfect for your coffee table or as a thoughtful handmade gift. I hope you've enjoyed making this as much as I have. Happy crocheting!